back, boys. As you just saw, I made a nice trip to Louisville and got me some TRS long travel struts off a Fox Body Mustang, and I cannot wait to get them on this car. And it's going to be a nice little fab project, and I'm going to bring you guys along. So here's what we got. We got about 11 inches of travel on these TRS. That's Jeff Thomas. He revalved these AFCO struts for no prep specific, and we got ourselves some Fox Body spindles. So let's see what my current setup is. So right now we have a Mustang 2 setup spindle with a 4-inch stroke coilover. So that's not very much, and we have A-arms. Now this has been fine for the front side racing that I've been doing, but I'm gonna need a lot more travel for the back side of the track, which is what I'm trying to get into. So this is a very important project for me to get done. So there's something important to consider here. You see this spindle? That's how it would sit in the car. And if you look, we have a front steering spindle. In my current setup, we have a rear steering spindle, so that's something I'm gonna have to change. That's basic details, so let's get into it. I'm gonna tear this thing down and we'll get the new spindle. Should be able to set it right on my ball joint, but we'll figure it out. Well, I got everything tore down and I ran into my first issue, which is no big deal. I got to change my ball joints and I'll show you why. So here's the new spindle I want to use, and you see the mounting hole right there. When I put it down onto here, it does not taper correctly. This is too small of a ball joint, and you can see it rocks. So I'm going to have to get a real Fox Body ball joint. Well, here I am again, another few days later, just trying to figure this all out, and one of my fears has become a reality. Something that I thought I could measure for, but it is fixable, and I'll show you what happened. Well, you'll see the hood's on the car, and this is a huge clearance issue with long travel struts. One of the biggest things you must consider, and I thought I could measure that with my existing A-arm spindles over there, but the offset is different. You see, that is pretty much mounted in line with the spindle, and when you look at my A-arm ones over here, this is where it mounts at the bottom. And you see how far away that is from the center line here? So that was a big thing I couldn't accommodate for. And since I'm new to these Fox Body stuff, I just didn't know. And with that, there's two issues at hand that are fixable. Number one, I cannot get the right hood clearance. That's a fixable thing. And number two, I can't get the right camber and caster because I have a chassis bar in the way. But solution number one, you see this right here? They make things called drop spindles, which would lower this down and keep this exactly where it is. And it lowers the strut mount down 2 inches. And that would give me the hood clearance I need. And then the fix for issue number two, you can see where that strut's been touching. I plan on repainting this all anyway, but I'm thinking it's gonna have to go here or even cut here. And then I plan on cutting all the way back here, patching that, and then building my tower up. But I really just need to make this look good, but I think I'm gonna have to cut the chassis. It's one of those things where it is what it is, but I'm gonna get to work right now, getting these stock spindles off, and we'll get those drop spindles on when I get them in a few days. Alrighty, the next day, and I was able to get my hands on some AJE drop spindles. This is a 2-inch drop. So if you see, that back strut mount is actually directly in line with this shaft, and it lowered down the pickup right here on the ball joint way farther down. So here we are, very nice piece. I'm excited to compare it to the other one. And wow, you look at the other one, that bottom hole is well above that shaft. I think it's more than a 2-inch drop, but I'm very excited to try out the other ones. I mean, look at this. This is so much higher than what this is, directly in line with the shaft. So before I walk out of the shop at night, I like to write down what I need to do. And number one, we need to make a spacer. So the strut does not clamp down on this very well. There's about over an 1/8 inch gap. So I'm gonna make a nice spacer out of that with some aluminum flat bar. Next, create rear steer. And that is this right here. I'm gonna cut this off, put it over here and weld it up, and that way we can pick it up right here. And then we gotta cut off the old tabs. That is what is actually hitting the strut now when we flip the orientation of this. So just these two gotta go, and I'm not gonna even use them anyway. Next, find a way to measure camber with the tires on. That's what I'm gonna do, that's later on, and then start building the tower. So first things first, let's take care of that spacer. And boom, we made some nice spacers that'll fit right up to those. And I even got the slotted hole right there. Those top ones are a little bigger than the bottom. And I got it in there, you see? Nice fit, holes line up really good. So now I have a more extreme task, and that's cutting the steering arm off of this. And I think I'm gonna use a portable bandsaw, and I'm gonna try to get a nice cut with it. But sadly, it's gonna be bye-bye powder coat. Alrighty, so these turned out good. You see I added a plate on top for extra stability. We now have it in the stock position for a Fox body, but a rear steering pickup, so now we're good. And I also spent lots of time grinding off our old tabs. So the good news now is that we can use the Fox body spindles as they should be, and we have a rear steer pickup, so there's no interference with the chassis now. The way that strut sits, basically the spindle's upright, 10 degrees caster, 2 degrees camber. We have no issues, and that's what I was instructed to get, and that's what I will have on this car, so I'm very excited about that. Gonna be set up correct, but I'll show you what I'm working on right now. So I'm swapping over to the Fox body hubs, and I had to make this little wood contraption to hold them and not damage the threads. That's why wood's great here, and I can torque on it all I want. But here's the difference. This is the old hub that we were using for a Mustang 2. You can see the offset is different. You see how much taller that is? This is the Fox body one. This is my old one. So I'll get these all assembled, get the wheels on, and then I can start making a strut tower. Alrighty, so the wheels are on here, and now we just need to get the struts ready to go. I have my brakes hooked up and everything. It all worked out. But I have the struts right here, and I need to set them at a certain length and keep them there. Now, one of the problems I'm having is that these struts do not stay where they're at. Even without springs, they keep extending, so I've come up with a way to fix that. So I had to make a little zip tie contraption here to hold everything down. I got my tube that's 2 inches long. That keeps it exactly where I need it on the shaft. But yeah, this works perfect, and now I can go in there and mock it up. You see, I got one in there already, so we'll drop this one in. But first I want to show you the strut cup that I'm using. It has a bearing in the bottom because that strut's going to need to pivot as it goes through its travel. But HC&D right there, that's Hammer Concepts and Design. I got this through Tin Soldier Race Cars in Kentucky. They're a great company. But yeah, check this out. Very cool, nice bearing, little snap ring that holds that thing in, and you can just weld right to this. I'm going to try and preserve the HC&D because I like the way that looks. They machine that in. So let's get it on. Alrighty, so I got them all mocked up in there and they look good. I'm excited to build that tower, but I did get the steering arms hooked up and had the wheels straight by doing the straight line off these jacks here. See how we have some gap here? I measured off of the tire and got about a 1/16 of toe in on each side, but we used the rear tire here as a gauge, and we don't have it like on it, it's just barely there. Got to give credit to my dad for thinking of this idea. It was really good. We got the wheels straight, especially when you don't have a perfect alignment rack or anything. We just have a 4-post that's level, and you got to use what you got. Well, the fabrication and welding is finally done, and here we are. Well, here we are. Check that out. Long travel struts on a 2nd-gen Camaro. Incredible project to complete. I'm so happy about it. You can see that strut cup turned out good. The welds turned out good. I welded that up completely. My brother helped me fit this tube and this tube on both sides, and then I learned how to do it on this one, and that turned out fantastic. And if you look, this notch right here was crazy, super long notch, bunch of welding, and this is very, very structural, especially with my 3rd tube I added right there. And in order to get a nice notch like this one, we just use our little hole saw here on our air drill, and it just notches these tubes out. So here I am dealing with the bump steer. I'm actually gonna have to lower the control arm down to meet the steering rack because whoever built this car, they didn't match them. So this car would always have bump steer, but before I did not have enough travel for that to probably be an issue. But now that I have a bunch, it's really making itself known. And when I pick this thing up, those tires toe in a lot and I need to fix that. It really sucks. I was like, man, I'm done with this fabrication. I can't wait to go test this thing. And then this hits me And I was miserable for a little, and I overcame that, and I'm ready to just do it. It's gonna suck, but I'll show you guys what's going on. So here we have our control arm mount here that's existing for this, and check it out. It is above the pivot point right here of the steering rack, so that is a problem. So I'll show you on the other side. You can see how that is, and no matter how low I would make this, it still would have bump steer. So this and that need to be on the same plane. There needs to be a straight line going from one to the other. So using the good old cardboard, I've kind of come up with a way here to extend that down to meet it. That's the new hole, and I'll brace all this up, but this is what it's gonna have to be, and I'm gonna have to make another fab project. Alrighty, after a couple 12-hour days, you can see we are at full extension here, and the wheels are straight. Now taking a closer look, you can see what I did. Those templates I made right here, I added those on, no problem, and then added a tube in here. You look, a tube for extra support there, especially the twisting motion, but the plug welds turned out great. I did one there, one on the inside, so it's still attached how it was before, but it's very structural. And then right here, I just made another piece down, used the tab that was already in there, so I have basically 3 tabs here, and it's very strong. Drop this down, everything's on the same plane now. If you look at my steering rack, all on the same plane, so the bump steer is gone. And I also got to give a shout out to PRP here. Very nice product. I just found them on Summit. Very cool strap. I love these way more than the chains. Now, what was very easy to show you right there was a ton of work. Super hot out, welding that all up. I mean, it was just a big project, and I did not want that to come on top of what the struts were, but that just had to be done. The car just wasn't right for long travel, so I had to make it right. And with the project finally done, I was able to test the car, and here's how it went. As you can see, this fab project was a total success. The car went straight as an arrow, and this led me into going to a race at Cincy Street Nights. Now, as you just saw, the long travel struts did their job, but I got out horsepowered, and this has been a common theme throughout the year, which led me to get my hands on a Pro Charger and had a short block made. And if you check out my YouTube shorts, I've been building that thing, so make sure to go check those out. But I just wanted to wrap this video up. I'm very happy with how the struts turned out. The next step is to put a mean Pro Charger on the front of this thing so that we can actually compete with these high horsepower cars. But all in all, I appreciate you guys watching, and I'll see you in the next one.